San Francisco, we're back. We're here. The offseason, a disappointing end to last year, not making the playoffs after a trade deadline that didn't go our way. But we adapt, we adjust. Goal was always to push for a wild card spot. Last year, I think based on where we are with our contracts, it's kind of make the playoffs this year or it's a failure. And we have a good core here, a good nucleus that I think can get us to that. If we continue to have the same type of years of production that we've gotten out of some of our starting pitching, Yandy Diaz is still here. Santander's been playing well. Camilo Doval's been one of the best closers in the game. Patrick Bailey's back-to-back Gold Glove winners. We just need people like Young Hoo Lee and Matt Chapman to kind of elevate their game from down years last year and then pick up some pieces that'll help us do it. And with looking over at this free agency market and the trade market, there wasn't much in terms of trades. And in free agency, we have about $50 million to go after some players, but we have a couple of guys that we also are going to give out some money to in arbitration. All on one-year deals, but they're not the cheap renewable contracts on league minimum anymore. So we've gone after the pieces that we think will help this team get over the top in some areas of weakness for us in the past. So you can see it's really the bullpen. It's Kerchak on the back end. We're bringing back Bummer and Barlow, have been pretty effective relievers for us. And then Gavin Lux to replace Theo Estrada as our second baseman. 28 years old, pretty good fielder, good speed, vision, discipline, clutch, is going to get on base as a good contact guy. You can see that OBP there. And with looking at what's available around the league here, Nico Horner was the big standout guy, a potential, has slightly better numbers all around, especially in the power category, a better fielder, more versatile as he plays all of the infield positions, but he wants $20-some million a year. And we just can't afford that, let alone do I feel comfortable giving that to a second baseman, who I kind of believe is a position where you'd like some defense. And if you can get some offensive production out of it in terms of on base, that's kind of what you're hoping for. Brandon Lau for the Tigers had an incredible year. Gives you a little bit more thump, but he's a little bit older, a little bit more of a streaky player, and he's wanting closer to $10 million a year. Jeff McNeil, pretty similar, but 33 years old and kind of seems locked up there with the Mets. And then, of course, Theo Estrada, and then we got to Gavin Lux. And based on everything was there, we're not getting a lot of power from our team. That's not the way we've built it, and that's not the way we kind of have our contracts lined up right now. Brandon Lau would help with that, but I didn't like what he was asking for, nor did it really fit our budget. Gavin Lux is kind of the cheapest option that's the fairest among some of the other guys. Like Nico Horner, Jeff McNeil, and Gavin Lux kind of have similar numbers where they're good fielders, decent speed, contact on base guys. Of course, Gavin Lux is probably the worst of the three, but we're still betting on him growing as he's continued to do throughout his career. He's still only 28, so he's kind of entering right into his prime. We just need that on-base guy, good fielder up the middle, and improving the bullpen there we think will help. And like I said, some arbitration guys we have here. We've basically handed out one-year deals to just about everybody, I believe, but Heliot Ramos. We gave him a 2-year deal based on the performance he had last year, lock him up a little bit longer, give him more security there. Hopefully he can continue to grow. The rest of these guys, depending on how they do, especially looking at Kyle Harrison and Luciano at short, we can look to extend during the season. If they're continuing to produce and get to the level we want. We just don't have the money to do that right now as we're trying to make that push for the playoffs. So that's kind of going to handle everything. Everyone else is kind of getting league minimum. Like I said, 1-year deals across the board for a lot of those younger guys, not locking anybody up long term because we really just got to make a push for the playoffs this year and get that done. So one other quick thing before we continue here, if we're looking long-term past this year as well, and some contracts, some money that we're going to free up. Yoshida's $18 million will come off the books. Yandy Diaz, $12 million. Lucas Giolito was not the offseason acquisition we hoped for last year. We're hoping for a bounce back from him, as you kind of see his numbers kind of bounce back and forth between a pretty good year and a not so great year. But I'm not going to be hesitant to try and move on from Lucas Giolito if he struggles out the gate this year. $18 million is a lot that we can get back in return and help out our starting pitching there. Everyone else is kind of set on the kind of 2-year, 3-year window right here that we're shooting for to make a run at things. So I'll stop blabbering. Let's get to simulating through this free agency market. I'll bring up the screen if anything crazy happens, take care of the 40-man roster, take care of the renewables, everything like that, and we'll see you come spring training. All right, couple days into free agency, we got all those bullpen pieces either re-signed or signed in free agency, and just wanted to call out a couple things here. A lot of guys going back to the old teams like Bellinger, Lowe, McCullers, Varsho, and Arozarena. Kyle Wright re-signed with the Royals there as well. We just continue simulating. We have the 40-man set. Brian Abreu goes to the Rangers on a big league reliever deal there. Arbitration's already been handed out. We can sim past that. And we'll get to here in December. We can continue past this. First big trade here. Hunter Harvey, reliever, going to the Pirates as a Pirates-Cardinals trade goes down for a couple of prospects there in our division. Okay, so we're here now, about a month into free agency. Take a look at the Giants here and see where we are re-signing. Like I said, we just re-signed a bunch of the guys. It still looks like Gavin Lux hasn't accepted an offer yet. Take a look at Nico Horner here to having a big offer from the Mets. Be interested to see if they've re-signed Jeff McNeil there as well. So we're still top offer there on Lux. We'll give it another week here to see where if he signs as a May to the Rockies. J.P. Crawford goes to the Dodgers. So they lose Lux and they pick up Lux was playing for the Rangers, so they pick up J.P. Crawford. Nico Horner, yeah, that's what I was saying. $23 million, 6 years to the Cardinals. I mean, he's a good player. Is he worth $24-some million as a second baseman? In my opinion, no. That money can be spent elsewhere, and it's just going to hurt us down the line, even though we want to make the playoffs this year. So we do sign Gavin Lux to that 3-year deal. Heliot Ramos signs his 2-year deal there. So that basically takes us out of free agency. There's really nothing else out here for us. There's nobody we have offers on. You could saw there's about $7 million in cap space that we want to stay flexible with as we head into this year, so we can have the ability to make some trades. And we'll go to the draft lottery again. As you know, we weren't a playoff team, so there's a slim chance we move up. You never know. We'll see who some of the top picks are and where we'll be drafting in this year is also helpful to know. So we're staying at 15th. Angels and Rays and Royals all jump up multiple spots there. The poor White Sox can't get that first overall pick. And we'll just keep simulating here as we chug along. So Alejandro Kirk going to the Tigers. Here we are, the Rule 5 draft. Take a peek if there's anything out here that stands out to us. Like I said, we're trying to be a playoff team, so it's going to have to be somebody that will make our roster and actually have a true impact on it. Third baseman prospect here. Nothing too crazy. Okay. Decent catcher. Jesus, but we did that last year with Logan Porter. We don't need to do that again. Kind of like our catching core, to be completely honest with you. Okay, a couple starters, a couple relievers. No one really jumping off the page in terms of overall or potential earlier. Yeah, no one really here for us in the Rule 5 draft, so we'll skip our selection. And that'll be that. All right, let's get to the end of December here. Munoz goes to the Rockies. They pick up Munoz and Dustin May. Casey Mize to the Nationals. Eloy Jimenez to the Brewers. Ryan Mountcastle to Philly. Rhys Hoskins gets traded from Milwaukee to the Diamondbacks for Ketel Marte and a pitching prospect in Christian Mena. So that's an interesting one there. 1-year deal. Divisional rival for us. Okay, so yeah, we're good on our contracts. Let's just see if there's anybody else here that we need to supplement our pitching with. Probably just pick up a starter here just to have in the system. Looked like we needed a couple catchers as well. Let's try and find some guys. Luke Berryhill's been around. He can be maybe the 7th catcher there. And let's go after Charlie or Chandler here. Okay, that brings us up to 7. Maybe an additional second baseman and a couple outfielders as well. Just grab some guys for the minors. 30K. Beautiful. What was it? Center field and right field. We can use a couple outfielders at each. Myers. Nope. Looking for some guys on some cheap minor league contracts here. There we go. Adrian Pinto. Shane Sasaki. Okay. We'll grab a right fielder in here. Jake Means, do you work? You do. Okay. So Brandon Lau signs with the Diamondbacks. So they trade away Marte and then replace him with Brandon Lau. Something to note. Jonah Heim goes to Washington as the Nationals are looking to rebuild there. Chisholm to the Royals. Jesus Luzardo to the Royals. Tony Gonsolin. John Gray. Okay. A couple middle-of-the-road pitchers. Tristan McKenzie to the Reds. So big signing for them as they went on a run last year, I do believe. Okay, we signed everybody who's still waiting on an ARB. Who can we up at a little bit of an offer to and not piss them off? It's kind of how I look at it. Go 2.5 there. Braxton's fine. Rojas can hit ARB. Same with Stefan and Castro there. Okay. Brady Singer to Miami. Okay, Rojas got about the same that he was being offered. Castro, okay. Stefan, okay. And Kyle Harrison. All right. Braxton Garrett. Let's take a quick look. Yep. About $9 million in salary there. Organizational depth looks okay. Maybe pick up an additional reliever here just to have if there's anybody quick and cheap. No, okay, we'll just roll with it and sign someone if we need it. Renew these contracts. Tristan Beck, you had a decent run there in the majors, but I think you're just going to be a depth piece for us. At this stage, Keaton Wynn, yet to see you pitch in the majors in this universe, but keep it going. So let's get to spring training here. As a big trade goes down to the Mets. So the Mets were active. We'll take a quick peek at their roster. They kind of standing out as making a lot of moves. Josh Naylor, who I believe was a free agent last year, re-signed with the Guardians, and they trade him to the Mets for a couple of prospects there. Keep simming. Okay, we're at the offseason. Let's take a quick look at the Mets since they kind of stood out to us in the offseason. All right, so pitching-wise, nothing nothing crazy. Starting pitching, bullpen, Reed Garrett, Edwin Diaz really holding it down for them in their last years. Catching, they're pretty stacked with JT and Francisco Alvarez. Luis Torrens there as well. They pick up Josh Naylor to play first. Rizzo to back him up. They did sign Jeff McNeil as Nico Horner went to the Cardinals. Brandon Drury's here as well. Then they have Max Muncy and Brett Beatty at third. Still have Lindor at short. with Mauricio coming up the wings, Brendan Nimmo, Jesse Winker, Jet Williams, Sal Frelick. Okay. Yeah, pretty decent team there for New York, and some good trades and free agent acquisitions for them as well. So you can see our rankings, 7th overall, pretty good pitching and contact. That's kind of the name of our game for this team, and we're just going to sim through spring training here. Going to get to the regular season, tee it up for next year. All right, so we're here, spring training. We're actually just going to sim right through this and get it started for the regular season. I'm going to go through the rosters real quick. We're going to get about a month of simulating done here to see what this team's all about. And, we'll be back in a moment. All right, so here we are, the start of year 3 for the San Francisco Giants. We simulated a couple days to make sure all the rosters were set to go. We'll show you what we're working with here for the San Francisco Giants. So rotation staying much of the same as it did to close out last year. Birdsong gets the long relief spot there. Bullpen much of the same, and just the additions of Kerchak in here to help close things out on the back end. In AAA, we have Wisenhunt and Eldridge leading the way of our rotation. A couple of our C guys. Cody Stashik, who played in the MLB for us last year, had a good year. Didn't make the cut this year, as along with Mitch Bratt, another lefty down here, who we might end up calling up at some point this season, depending on how things go. Same with Wisenhunt. But that's the way we're going to start AA. Nothing much here other than Dustin Fletcher, who we're looking to grow as a starting pitcher. Lineup-wise, this is where things gets a little interesting this year. So we have Yoshida leading things off, followed by Gavin Lux, our free agent acquisition of this year. Yandy Diaz, Santander, hoping for some good years from them to bounce back to the playoffs. Young-Hoo Lee gets bumped down to the 5 spot now. Elliot Ramos, we might interchange those two depending on the years that they have. Matt Chapman, we need a bounce-back year from him. Would really help us. Patrick Bailey doing the catching, and Luciano at short. On the bench this year, we have Josh Rojas, kind of a utility guy who's been serving us well. Blake Sable, a good catcher versus righties. You might think we should start him over Patrick Bailey versus righties, but he is a really solid defensive catcher as well. But Patrick Bailey's our guy, and he just grew to an A potential last year, even though he's already starting to drop off this year with only a couple games played. But we'll see how that goes to start the year. Luis Matos on the bench, and then Michael Busch as well. We decided to play him this year in the MLB roster to really see what he's made of, and if we should look to move on from him. And then Rodolfo Castro as well. The only change we have versus lefties, and because we're trying to win and we're kind of tired of playing guys just because they're being paid, Luis Matos is getting the start in center fielder versus lefties. Young-Hoo Lee's struggled against them in his career here in San Francisco, and Matos was a good player for us off the bench last year. I don't think he started against anyone, so only 105 at bats, but he hit 276 with 321 on base. So we're hoping he can really kind of unlock versus lefties and maybe earn a spot in the everyday outfield for us. But that's kind of it for the Major League roster. For AAA, there's really not much going on down here. Casey Schmidt did get delegated down to AAA, just didn't have room for him based on what we have. We can always call him up and send down someone like Castro or Rojas or something like that, but him playing every day down in AAA should help him. Colin Barber, we're still hoping for some growth out of him. Logan Porter, who was on the Major League roster last year, is now going to be our AAA catcher. Cackle gets moved up, and Art Dehania is the shortstop here. And then in AA, our draft pick in Vaughn Burke, who looks to be a pretty solid second baseman prospect for us. Lloyd German, an outfielder, and then Christian Vaquero as well in the outfield. So that's kind of how things stack up for us this year in terms of the roster and how we're going. We actually won the first 2 out of 3 games versus LA here to start the year. I'm going to take 3 of 4 against them. So that's a good start for us, considering how things have started in the past. As Chase Pinder gets injured, we're just going to have him. We'll go through this real quick just so things don't get screwed up. Outfielder, we'll give Vaughn Brown the chance to play every day. We've been trying to get him to grow. Nothing has turned up. And then Pinto, you can get in there. Versus lefties. Okay. So get back to the Major League roster here. And we lost those first 2 to San Diego. Now we're going to LA for 4. Santander broke his hand. Interesting. Okay. So after starting off strong, we've lost a couple in a row here. And Santander got injured. So that makes things interesting about what we really want to do with this lineup. Could get Michael Busch in there versus righties, and I think that's what we're going to do. As a DH, he's about the same fielding as Yandy Diaz. We'll leave him in DH for right now. No one else is really hitting that great. Bottom of the lineup's doing pretty well. We'll play him versus righties. And then lefties, we could go back to Young-Hoo Lee in the outfield. Rodolfo Castro. We'll give him a couple of ABs here since he looks to platoon well versus lefties as a DH in there. We'll give him a chance and then just fill in versus DH. Okay. So we'll sim a couple games here and see what happens to our lineup. Scouting is much of the same. We're just trying to uncover some prospects right now while we scout center field. Can always use some more outfielders as Yoshida goes down for a couple of weeks. Injuries are hitting this team hard to start the year. Luis Matos, 11 ABs, no hits. Josh Rojas or Luis Matos. Let's give it to Luis Matos and see what he can do. No hits. We'll try Young-Hoo Lee moving up the lineup. See if that gets him going any better. Chapman's hitting okay. We'll move him up. And then versus lefties, it's going to be Young-Hoo Lee. And we're just going to have him start versus lefties and see if his numbers get any better instead of being a platoon-based guy. Okay, keep simming here. Still just around that 500 mark. So we're bottom of the division to start the year. We're only going to go about a month, maybe 2 here. I know Beck got injured, so I'll make sure we get someone in there for him. But it's a locked up division in terms of a lot of competitive players. As we continue our same old ways of not being able to beat bad teams. So frustrating. Place him on the bench. We lose 2 of 3 versus Washington, who had 1 win on the year, and it was us. Okay, so Young-Hoo Lee's hitting a lot better. Michael Busch is struggling. Ramos is struggling. Matos is doing okay. All right, let's get Yoshida in here as our DH. Trying to think of what else we could do here with this lineup. He was hitting well in the leadoff spots. I like him up there. Elliot Ramos, Josh Rojas, how's he doing? Nothing great off the bench there. Yeah, we'll move Matos up a spot and see. Yoshida needs to get in here. Yeah, versus lefty. Since Young-Hoo Lee's hitting well, slide him down versus lefties. Castro, okay. See if this can get us going a little bit more offensively. Still just that 500 ball. Come on, let's go on a little bit of a winning streak here. Just win 1, lose 1, win 1, lose 1, win 1, lose 1, win 1, lose 1. It's been the story of this franchise, unfortunately. All right, pitchers, scout position, starting pitchers, scout position. Let's look at shortstops. And we need third baseman as well. Let's get Tristan Beck back into the rotation for AAA. All right. How about a winning streak? Is it too much to ask for a little bit of a winning streak? Arizona. Be really nice if we can get this win here versus them in this series. We do go to St. Louis and get swept. See, just do some good, do some bad. It's just kind of how this team is going. Play well, play poorly. Cleveland, straight sweep again. Ugh. Wanted a winning streak, and we just go on a losing streak, and here we are. I think that's going to be where we stop this video. Maybe we'll go one more week just to set up the scouting again, but man, that's frustrating, to say the least. I mean, there's not a whole lot else we can really do. Like, this is the team. It's kind of frustrating that it's just not working. Yeah, geez. Holy. Go ahead, auto-fix the lineups. Goodness gracious. What a month of May. 5 total wins in the month of May. I mean, that just sunk our season. 11 games below 500, 13.5 out of our division. We're 9 games back of a wild card. Oh, man. I mean, I just don't know what to do anymore, really, with this team. Chapman and Santander will be coming back in a week. So frustrating, to say the least. Guess we'll scout him, even though we won't have a shot at him. What's the next best positional player? Anybody? Outfielder, sure. Yeah, Corbin Burns isn't having a great year. Webb's doing fine. Giolito, I think we can trade. Try that in the next season. Garrett and Harrison are fine. Birdsong's not doing great. What's the bullpen doing? Stefan's struggling. Stefan's really the only one. Estevez, 6 holes, 2 below C's. I mean, it's kind of up and down. Maybe just had a bad outing. Duvall, not bad. I mean, it's not the bullpen. We could use some help in starting pitching, but yeah, geez. Yoshida's hitting terribly. So is Yandy Diaz. Young Lee's bounced back. Elliot Ramos, Rojas, Ciano, Bailey. I mean, there's really not a whole lot else we can do with this team and this lineup. If we have anybody going off here in AAA. Even Casey Schmidt down here is not doing great. Logan Porter is not doing great. We have some bad luck, some bad juju on our team, on our roster. I mean, we rank 8th overall, strong with contact and pitching. I feel like we need to make a trade. Go get another starter for Giolito, possibly. I mean, could just call up Wizenhunt, just get some prospects back for him. Bryce Elder's pitching well. Could take that route. I mean, this team on paper should be fine. I mean, we definitely lack that superstar offensively. Is there anybody on the market to help with that? Yeah, not really. I mean, it's just a bunch of decent players, serviceable that can help your team for sure. But nobody outstanding. I mean, Brandon Rogers, second baseman, we don't really need. I mean, Wyatt Langford's an interesting one. He's kind of having a down year here for Texas. We know what he can turn into. Joey Meneses, of course, he's playing for Arizona and popping off. Division. Really, Brandon Donovan. I mean, Could go after him, but he's going to be a free agent. Where do the Cardinals and the Rangers really stack up here? Because we could use some help. So the Cardinals are in a wild card spot. So I'm not sure they'd really want to trade away anybody unless they got some decent return. And then the Rangers are also kind of in a wild card spot. So what do these teams want? They want to be that outlandish to make a trade with these teams. So the Rangers are looking for pitching help. Okay. So if we go Luis Giolito, I mean, that would instantly be their number one. And they are in a decent playoff spot. They have Yaz is here, still playing. He's actually having a decent year. They have Garcia, Leody Taveras. They still have Evan Carter here. So Wyatt Langford, who's struggling for them, right, has some control. I would even go 1-for-1 with that. Maybe we try and grab another prospect, but I don't think that's a horrible trade for both teams for their needs. Just trying to change things up and maybe go on a little bit of a run here. And then the Cardinals, Brendan Donovan was another one we were looking at who can kind of play anywhere. But he's going to be a free agent. They kind of want outfield, but they have so many options in the outfield. It's kind of weird that they're still seeking some outfielders here. Shortstop, they could certainly use a shortstop, and then catching. I mean, they're not that bad at catching. Yeah, I think that trade with the Rangers might be the move to try and shake things up here for us. See if we can go on a little bit of a run. Don't know what to make of this team. Guess we'll have to figure that out in the next video.